Hi, my name's Paul Kinvig, and this is video 2 in the two-part interview with Tony Brown, Chief Exec of Beales Limited. If it was coincidence and maybe circumstance because of the economics of the time, in just a couple of sentences, what did it teach you?
I think it taught me resilience. It taught me patience, because you need to be, when the numbers are bad and the environment's bad, like, you know, we're in a very challenging time at the moment, you have to have patience to keep a very cool head, otherwise you can make the wrong decisions. And I think with Philip, it taught me to get close to the product and close to the customer.
Okay.
So the biggest thing we did in BHS was, first of all, we understood the customer, then we went and bought the product for the customer. So it was that product and customer piece.
So when the call came to come back to Beales as CEO, how long did it take you to decide yes?
Well, there's two stages.
Stages again.
Yeah. So pretty much it was a family thing.
Right.
So being that far away from your family for so long is tough.
Yeah.
So it was more of an emotional decision than practical. And I came back to the UK, and within a day I got a call from the owners here saying, "Can you come back as a non-exec director?" Because the business was struggling again. It had been through a CVA, it had dropped stores, it wasn't where it needed to be. And then I ended up, after the first board meeting, becoming the CEO. So,
was that intentional? Was it circumstantial?
I think probably a bit of both, but more circumstantial.
Okay.
Stuart, became ill and decided to step down for his health. And that's not a euphemism, he decided to step down for his health.
Yeah. How's retailing changed? In right across the spectrum, from Asda through BHS, disappearing from the UK for a while and then coming back. How's it changed?
I think it's changed. I think it's changing fundamentally.
Right.
If I look back, let's say 20 years ago, you could never have foreseen what's happening now, and therefore you can't foresee what's going to happen in the next 10 years. The dynamic of the customer is changing. The requirement of stores, especially big space stores, is changing from a customer perspective. And even the offer in those stores is or needs to dramatically change. People are demanding more experiential, think more than just a shop. They want nice restaurants inside the shop, they want good food, they want bars, like we have a Prosecco bar here. They want that more leisure aspect. I think if you look 10 years down the track, I think town centres will become more residential, more entertainment driven, or more social driven.
Do you think in the way that European cities tend to be seen in that kind of way?
I think that's where we're heading. There'll still be a need for stores and that experience in stores. It's just that we have to change. If you look at the millennials now, 10 years time, they're in their 30s, their late 30s, and they're changing dramatically how people shop. You hear a lot about it's the internet. It's not. Only 15% of total retail sales in the UK go through online. And if you broke that down into its constituent parts, the majority of that will be DIY, it'll be hardware, it'll be some linens. There's a bit of fashion goes through.
That runs completely counterintuitive to what the general feeling is, and it says the reason that high streets are facing the challenges that they have is that everybody's shopping online.
No, that's in my view and my experience, and the numbers don't lie. The numbers are solid. It's round about 15 or 16% of retail is done online. And again, you break that down. Amazon, for example, the biggest online trader in the world, doesn't sell one stitch of fashion. The majority of their product is all DIY, homewares. You can buy a car off Amazon now.
What hasn't changed?
The customer. The customer has a very high expectation. That hasn't changed. They want service and they want the product that they want to buy. I think what retailers need to do is recognise that customer, the shopping habit is moving every single week, and that depending on the broader economics that are facing the customer. So, for example, the last 2 months have seen some of the biggest hikes in petrol prices that we've seen in a decade. Now that makes a material difference to the household income, a material difference, because going from 110 or 115 as it was a couple of months ago to 136 a gallon, a litre, is a material effect.
Different, yeah.
So therefore the disposable income becomes tighter. So it's that whole thing that you have to look at the market, look at your customer, and develop your ranges around that. One of the big things we look at, a lot of people talk about customer centricity.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people understand it. It's not a thesis. Customer centricity is looking at your customers' spending habits and adapting your stores in the towns that you trade to that customer. We do a lot of work with our loyalty card looking at the profile of our customer in each store, and we range our stores to that profile.
So Beales as an organisation has the kind of flexibility within its store makeup to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Because you always get the sense that if it's a national organisation, then the only thing that changes in terms is the size of store, so therefore the kind of range that you offer.
Yeah.
But what you're effectively saying is you can flex your offer dependent upon the actual customer that goes in, even though you're
we're a multi-site business.
Yeah.
So yes, one, because we're independent, we're privately owned. Two, we have a very small hierarchy. We make decisions in this building that we just go and do that day. So if I want to do X in that store, I just do it. I haven't got a stream of people sat behind me second guessing the decisions we make. We have a small executive team. Once that executive team makes a decision, that's it, it's done.
I mean, that's great because it gives you the kind of flexibility and nimble business. Puts a heck of a lot of pressure on you guys though, because it's like if we decide it now, it's done in the afternoon. I mean, the buck comes right back to you almost on an hourly basis then, if it works or doesn't work.
Oh yeah, I mean, we do what we call listening surveys. So we go to all our staff and all our managers twice a year and ask them what they think. And they fill out a survey, it's all anonymous, and they give us feedback. And a lot of the time, the feedback is, why do we have to change so much so quickly? Mm-hmm. Well, we have to change so much so quickly because that's the market condition we're in. And we'll never make an apology for changing things quickly.
And so as we talked about earlier, retailing is currently one of the most challenging, really, businesses that you can be involved in. If you look now and the upcoming 1 or 2 years, what do you think are the biggest risks, the biggest threats in terms of retailing, both at your level, but retailing in general as well?
I think the first risk, and I think the most important, is the upward-only costs we've got at the moment. Because you've got upward-only rents, you've got rates that are only going up and based on what I consider to be a flawed model. You've got national minimum wage or living wage, which adds 4.5% last year with another couple of percent next year. You've got pension contribution rates, levies as well.
Yep.
You've got the apprentice levy. You've got the carbon levy as well. So all these things increase your base cost with no discernible benefit to the bottom line. Your sales are not going to cover, when your margin improvements are not going to cover those cost increases. Just since Britex came along, the exchange rate has significantly damaged cost of product. So we're getting a smaller margin because most things are bought on the dollar.
Yep.
And when you've got a much weaker dollar sterling ratio, it hurts. So there is a perfect storm of costs, of upward-only costs and margin erosion hitting retailers at the moment.
So what do you do?
The first thing you do is you look at what productivity gains you can make inside the organisation. And that's not just about cutting people's jobs or cutting people's hours. It's looking at the systems and processes. It's looking at IT. And we've invested a lot of money in cleaner, more efficient IT. We've invested a lot of money in improving our processes to try and take the strain out of what we do.
Yeah.
For example, we've just engaged a central distribution system for our linens department, which improves our margin and reduces our costs on the shop floor. So it's those types of things you have to do. You also have to look at your customer. And I know I keep on coming back to the customer, but that's why we're here. And you have to look at what they're buying and how they're buying it and what you can go out there and buy. My buyers are out in the Far East, they're out in Europe, looking all the time for key promotional lines that drive not only volume, but drive margin as well.
you obviously enjoy it, but there are times when there are difficult decisions that come along that potentially affect people and their lives. Maybe a daft question, but what's it like to have to make those decisions? How do you go about it?
They're incredibly hard. I mean, every decision you make that affects someone's work, if you like, is affecting their overall life. You know, so you've got to look very, very long and hard about, are you making that right decision? Is there another decision you can make that you can carry on supporting the workforce you've got? Fortunately, we've been able to do that. In fact, we've managed to take more people on by creating productivity improvements, but also creating different strands to our business. We've opened up a restaurant in Southport called Puddings and Pies. That's added a dimension to us. We've opened up a standalone furniture store. And if you can do these things without increasing your head office costs, you become more profitable.
So to a large degree, it's that kind of focus on what you said earlier about being nimble and quick in decision making, understanding what your customer wants and where they are, and almost anticipating what they might want before they even know it themselves, to some degree.
Yeah.
But it still ultimately comes down to you and your senior team going, that's our gut feel, that's based the evidence that we have, and then making the decision to do it for better or for worse.
Yeah. We have an exec meeting every Monday morning where we pore over the prior week's figures, and we don't stick to a dogmatic promotional calendar. We look at what's working and what's not working, and we amend that calendar on a weekly basis. Sometimes we do it midweek. So if it's something that's not working midweek, because we're on top of every...
And can you change that quickly in terms of...
We can change in a couple of hours. And we have done.
Okay.
You know, we can change a promotion, and our stores are fantastic. They absorb the pressure. We can put a sale on overnight that they weren't expecting. Now they moan like hell about it, but if it keeps the business rolling, then everybody's happy. We're about to, in the process of buying a new business in East Anglia.
Yeah.
Now I can buy that business, buy the freehold to that business, without increasing my head office costs. So they'll become a cash stream straight away.
Yep.
So you can grow yourself out of these problems, but you have to maintain your focus on the customer to make sure you're delivering what they want. And the customer has changed dramatically on what they're buying. You know, we've just done an exercise on our glassware department, where we were suffering a 50% decrease year on year. We had 50% more stock. It simply wasn't working. So we decided to reduce all our glassware, get rid of what we had, and go into a very promotionally driven box set glassware business. We're now 50 up on the year and 50 down on stock, because the customer is buying that product, not spending £12 on a crystal cut glass. They don't have the income to do that anymore, disposable income. So it's literally doing that every single day. My team were out in Amsterdam last week doing pallet deals, because we know that works, so let's go and buy more of different products.
If we got a TV, or we were WhatsApping the Tony Brown that first came into Beales, what would you say to him, having gone through all your experience from that point and come round full circle back in there now? What would you say to him to do differently in that maybe first year, first 2 years, or to do more of in terms of what you did?
Gosh, I think firstly, if I look at my own mistakes when I first joined Beales, was I didn't look at who our customer was straight away.
Okay.
I looked at who my customer used to be in BHS and the ways we worked in BHS, which was totally different to what we needed in Beales.
Right.
So what I would say there to Tony would be, check out your customer first, understand who she is and what she buys and how often she buys it. So understand your customer, then go and understand your product. If you understand your product and your customer, you're halfway there.
Right.
I think the next thing would be get close to your people. Listen to your people. Don't think you know better than them just because you've come from a £1 billion business into a smaller business. Because the history of Beales, the heritage of Beales, is built on people.
Right.
And unless you understand and really understand the nature of the business through the eyes of the people who have been there for 10, 20, 30 years, you don't understand the business. So listen to your people. Don't assume you know better than they do. And they're mistakes I made in the beginning.
Right.
So I would have a word with them and say, take a step backwards and just listen and understand your business before you rush out and make decisions.
Tony, thanks so much for chatting to me. There's some great stuff in there as far as business is concerned, and I wish you every success going forward.
Thank
you.
you.